What I sort of see is that I think we all agree that there is a need for more human touch in trains. That means more people or better trained or educated people. That means also increased costs. Now, if the security becomes more important in the future, you will have this increased cost through the security as well, and also using the terminals. So, and then you add into that mix, you add the price pressure from the potential competition, and you end up in the same sort of complexity as the air travel is facing now. And I'm just thinking that how are you going to solve it, and especially if you lose the subsidies by the governments.
Well, I mean, there's a pretty simple math we do. We have analyzed our assets, mainly the reach, the network, but also touch points. We have about 60, 70 touch points where our 1 million customers we have per day are somewhat, we can somewhat get in touch with our customers. So, and if you apply digital levers like access, like mobile marketing, like navigation, like the whole mobile commerce issue, but also things like digital media, ambient media, there we truly believe that there is a lot more to be made, paid by the B2B2C world as opposed to the end customer itself. And that again could easily, if applied correctly, could easily offset part of the subsidies you just mentioned. But then again, I wouldn't call it, in our case, it's not really considered subsidies. It's like the government funds infrastructure projects like bridges, like roads, like schools. There's of course also a tendency to clearly distinguish between the operation of the rail service as such and providing the infrastructure underneath, like the rails and the tunnels and whatever it needs to really have a functional infrastructure for transportation, both on roads as opposed to, and railways. And there I can clearly see that even today there is actually, in Switzerland, there is no subsidies on the long distance trains. They pay for the use of the railway lines. I mean, our long distance operation pays and has, of course, make money with the customers to basically offset those costs. So I think there we are pretty much we're playing in the same league as other means of transports, mainly on the means of land-based transport, like the roads. So from that point of view, I don't see that we're gonna face the fact that there will be no payments whatsoever or no infrastructure levies and contributions from either the government or some communities or even some stakeholders who insist, like certain regions or even industrial conglomerates, they might, as this happened in the past, they might just require a train station or a cargo train station near their campuses, and they would as well pay for that.
Yeah, I think obviously the what I think is that the air travel has a huge potential on the yield management, and I actually recently came across a study from EU where they compared the subsidies given to the different means of transportation, and if I remember all the details correctly, the subsidies given to the air travel, to the train travel compared to the air travel, when it came to the infrastructure or supporting the operators themselves, was roughly 80 times more in Europe than it was for the air travel. So there is still still a huge gap when it comes to the basically subsidies, and maybe that will change in the future. And obviously now air travel has to, the train travel has to face also these passenger right issues as well, that the having a delayed or cancelled train service, you need to give a compensation to the customer on the same levels as you have for the air travel. Ships are moving into that direction as well. So it is a changing landscape, and I would say that it's more even landscape between the transportation means.
And what do you think about this, Jerry? I mean, what's your thoughts on what Tero and Patrick have just said to us about both industries?
I think it's fascinating to hear the discussion, and certainly in terms of when it comes to pricing models and subsidies, that's an area that I'm not so familiar with. But I think the consequences of that are really telling, and I think again it comes back to the commercial pressures that both rail and air are under. Are incredibly challenging. I think it's therefore there's a danger that, but having said that, if everything is price-led, there is a danger that the kind of the value proposition gets all consumed in how much do we need to charge? To pick up on one of the points, what I mean is, if the I understand that if security has to increase, if the training, which I think is a really good point around the staff training to be more engaging, more friendly, that's going to add to cost. But I think if that's done properly, then the return on that investment should be exponentially. It should be greater. And I think that's one of the challenges, that even though the cost base may start creeping up, particularly if some of the subsidies are removed. Again, it comes back to, well, what's the value proposition? And I think the effort that's put into really understanding why a passenger would be prepared to exchange what they get for X amount of money is going to go a long way down that road. But as I say, I think ideally, wouldn't it be an ideal world if we could just wave a wand and we'd have a magic customer experience which would keep people coming back time and time again, but it's just not as simple as that. So it's an interesting one, but there's obviously the balance between the costs, the pricing, and what passengers themselves see as value.